Hi, thank you for joining me for another short talk. And friends, I wanted to discuss a little bit about what was spoken in the debate I had with Michael Brown regarding Isaiah 53, Isaiah 52, and Isaiah 53 on who it's actually speaking about. Now, my position is that it's speaking specifically about Isaiah himself, but does not exclude all the martyrs, all the messengers that were sent to wicked Israel and made to suffer. Now, why am I so against this idea that it could in some way be talking about Israel as a whole, pointing their finger at the wicked nations for making them suffer unjustly? And friends, this is a very popular Kabbalistic idea. Not only is this a Kabbalistic idea, it's an idea that's antithetical to Torah. We know, according to Torah, that whenever Israel suffers, in the macro, in the collective, it's always because of Israel. Why would the Almighty, in Sefer Yeshayahu, give Israel a platform to in some way point their fingers at the Gentile nations for making them suffer? When every time Israel suffers, it's their fault. According to Torah, every time Israel suffers, it's their fault. And it's really undeniable. And the problem is that Kabbalah and Kabbalistic notions have made Jews in Israel into wimps. That Esav L'Sona Yaakov Halacha Kavua, that the Gentiles will always intrinsically hate Israel no matter what they do. This is an idea that, one, causes people to leave Israel. I would say that we lost the vast majority of Jews to secularism after the Holocaust. Why? Because you had so many individuals pushing this victim status on Israel, that Israel's in some way unjustly being punished. Friends, whenever Israel suffers, it's because of Israel, and it's not because of the nations of the world. Now, one could bring up Amalek or other nations who've attacked Israel. Fine, this happens to all nations in the world. No one's going to claim that the reasons the Germans attacked the Russians is because Germans intrinsically hate Russians. How many claim nowadays that the only reason people do not support the state of Israel is because of this ingrained hatred that Gentiles have for their Jewish neighbors. It's completely nonsensical. When Israel suffers, it's because of Israel. Collective Israel sins, and it's not because of this Kabbalistic idea that Gentiles intrinsically hate Jews. This is why this idea that Isaiah 53 is speaking about Israel is really, from a Torah perspective, completely nonsensical. It's common sense that the prophets of Israel suffer for the sins of Israel. In other words, it pleases the Almighty to send prophets to do His will, even though they will end up suffering. Why? For the greater good, for those that actually do listen, for those who actually remain faithful. Because even throughout Jewish history, like whenever Israel has stumbled, whenever they were exiled, there was always that remnant that, you know what, not only remember the words of the prophets, actually wrote them down and carried them on to the next generation, who, by the previous generation's example, learned and didn't repeat their mistakes. They listened to their future prophets. And you know what? There are actually a lot more prophets than appear in our books of the prophets today. These are just the ones that we're aware of. The Almighty has sent many prophets who suffered at the hands of wicked Israel, i.e., who took upon themselves the sin of Israel in some hyperbolic, poetic sense. And friends, the reason I think it's so important to understand the idea of suffering in Torah Judaism properly is because it's one of the main reasons, or one of the main excuses people use to leave the Jewish religion. To quote Elie Wiesel, who actually grew up religious and dropped religion after the Holocaust, he said that he had no problem believing that the Jews had a special mission in this world, but he left their religion because he realized that it was a suicide mission. Friends, this only ultimately hurts us and that helps us. And I know that it feels good sometimes to play the underdog, but ultimately it makes you a worse individual. Mainly because people with this victim mentality cannot be happy individuals walking around that no matter what you do, you're destined to fail. And this is one reason I give for this somber attitude in the Jewish world. This notion that all the kvetching, all the stereotypes attached to Jews, that, you know what, paint us as unhappy individuals. And this is something that the Torah does not endorse. Actually, if you think about it, this is the only way contextually that narrative makes sense, right? From the beginning of Isaiah all the way to 52, 53, it's talking about Israel not listening, Jacob being stubborn. And now suddenly in Isaiah 53, it's talking about Israel pointing their fingers at the wicked nations. That makes absolutely no sense.